And what war did you serve in? Can you tell us your military story?
World War II. I went in 1943 and I was discharged in 1945.
And what inspired you to serve in the Marine Corps?
Well, before the war, when the war was beginning, in the first years of the war, people got quite excited about it. And it was different then than it is now. And I remember all the girls that worked in places in town, we all got together and we had a little group. And we went down to the garage and the man taught us how to change spark plugs in a car. And we made bandages. We did things, you know, we felt that we had to do something. And we had dark skirts and white blouses, and we fixed ourselves. We thought we were really something. We marched in the parades and all that kind of stuff. And it gradually grew to the point where some of the girls began to enlist. And I had two friends that went in the Army and one that went in the Navy. And I don't know, I guess I got the bug too, and the next thing I knew I was in Poughkeepsie, and I decided I guess I'd go in the Marine Corps. I don't know why I picked the Marine Corps, but I did. And so I went in the Marine Corps, and they said, go to New York, to Wall Street, and enlist. Well, at that time, it was during the Depression, and there was no transportation out of here. The trains didn't run from here. So Mom and I went down to Sharon on the 2nd of August, on her anniversary. She never let me forget that. And we went down a bus to New York. And in New York, they were having the colored riots at that time up in the Harlem section, and it was very dangerous. So the bus driver took us down to 125th Street, and he said he was going to put us on the subway down there. He said, it isn't safe to drive down through, so he said, I'll put you on the subway. So we did. We went down, and so we went down. I enlisted. We got everything done. And then he told us where to go to a garage there in the city, and he would pick us up to bring us home. So he picked us up, and we rode home up through Harlem in that bus. I'll never forget that ride. And they were all out in the streets on both sides. And I don't remember what the riot was about, but it was a bad one. And the driver was scared, but he got us up through, and we finally got out of there and came home. So then I had to wait. This was in August, and I had to wait until October before I went, because they were building the buildings down at Camp Lejeune, and they weren't finished yet. And the ones who had been already had gone had trained in New York in a college down there. I forget which one. And they weren't taken anymore right then. So I had to wait till the 5th of October. And then I went down, and that hit my father pretty hard. They took me to, of course, there was still no transportation, so they took me to Pauling, and I took the train from there, and he pretty much fell apart. I don't know why, but he got to, Mom said she had quite time getting him home. And so I went down. It was, we all met in New York, Grand Central, and the girls came in from all over the country, and we all met there together. And we went down on the train that night. It was an all-night ride, sat up in the train all night down there. Got down to Camp Lejeune the next morning. They came out, what I call cattle cars, big trucks with planks in them. That's what we rode into the place to begin with. I think from that, I had an idea what we had ahead of us, and we did. The first thing we found out was that the Marines didn't like us, didn't want us there, didn't want any part of the women. So they got us all set in the brand new building. We were the first ones in there. And there were 80 in each. There were 4 sections, and each section had 80 people in it. And I remember I wrote home to my folks, and I said, this seems so strange. I've been an only child, had my own room always. And I said, what do you know? I got 79 roommates. And we had bunks. I got an upper bunk, which was a good idea. And Well, I made a lot of friends. It was nice. And when I first went in, it was pretty rough because I had never done anything like that before. And in the beginning, I began at nighttime. I would lay there and I'd think to myself, what did I get myself into? And but little by little, I got in it and I liked it. And the more I was there, the better I liked it. And in the 6 weeks' time, I was amazed at what they could do with girls from all over the country that came in. They were all kinds. They had worked at all different kinds of things. One of the best friends I had worked in a laundry. She taught me how to iron shirts. And I don't know, they would come in there, we would laugh at them, watch them. Every 2 weeks, a new bunch would come. And they would come in and they would have their cosmetic cases with them, carrying along, and we'd yell out the windows, "You'll be sorry." They never got to use those cosmetic cases, I'm sure. Because, boy, when the morning came, you moved and you had no time for cosmetics. But it gradually worked into a groove. And I don't know, by the time I'd been there a month, I was in it. And by then, they could take you out and march you, and you could mark in precision marching. And you never even knew your feet were going. It was a funny thing. They would tell you what to do, and you would have no sense of making yourself do it. You just did it. All of a sudden, your feet turned you around, you went a different way. And, of course, the drill sergeants were all the men, and they were pretty rough on us. And they didn't spare the horses at all. I'm telling you, boy, they walked the feet right off us. If we didn't do what they said, the New River was just the other side. And the one guy said one day, "You don't do what I tell you, I'll march you right in the middle of that river." And he would have. I knew he would have loved to have the chance. But gradually you got so that, I don't know, everything was automatic. You just, when they said something to do, your feet did it and you did it. The food part was not anything great, but it was enough to live on. And the bad part was the waiting. You hurry up and wait. You hurry to get to the chow hall. It's time for food. So you get down there and you stand and you wait because the other ones haven't come out yet. And you wait, you wait, and you wait. And finally you get in there and you can have all you want. But I'd like to see anybody that could get up and get a second plate full or a second tray full. You couldn't move. You couldn't get in the place and you couldn't move that fast anyway. So nobody bothered with that. But they always had fruit on the table and we could have that. And we had plenty to eat. And then they take us out and march us some more. We walked and we walked and we walked. But I will say, in 6 weeks' time, when it came time for the finish of our course, we could march. Oh, could we march 30 inches back to the stroke? And you didn't have to do that. You knew you were right there. And I don't know. Somehow they had a way of making the groups so they all blended so that everything looked nice, and I was proud of the way we could march. It was really nice. So then after we had our big final march, and they were going to ship us out, and they said, I got my orders. We all went up to PFC when we graduated, and I got my orders. It was headquarters office in Philadelphia, and I was the only one going there. Nobody else in my group was going there. And the other people that were on the train with me going up were all going to the depot of supplies where they did the uniforms and all that stuff. And I couldn't quite understand why I was going to the depot, to the headquarters. But I went up and we got up there at night. They took us to a hotel and we stayed all night. Next day I went to the office where they said I belonged, and I did. And, they took me right in. The girls took me right in, and I was part of the family as soon as I got there. It was nice. And so I went right into office, which was normal, because they didn't have to spend a nickel on me, because I came out of an office. Before I went in service, I had worked for Central Hudson, again, the electric company, out of Poughkeepsie, in their office here in town. I practically ran this office because the manager only came a couple times a week. And I'd been there for 8 years. So that part was easy for me. So when they did all the interviews of what they would offer and what you might be asked to do, everything from cooks and bakers to driving a garbage truck, and I said, well, I've got a car, I can drive, I can cook. And when you went in, you went in with the idea that you were in for the duration and 6 months, not knowing where you'd go, what you would do. You had no idea. You just sold yourself to them, and they did what they wanted. But with me, they didn't have to spend any money because I had the education already. So they just put me behind a typewriter, and away I went again. And so it was a nice office, and the girls were very nice there that I worked with. So they lived in a housing area that the woman rented rooms out to the University of Pennsylvania students. She had done that before. So now she was renting it all out to the girls, to the Marine girls. So we had the whole house. And so all they did with me is take me home and tuck me in whatever bed wasn't being used. And so they just took me out. There was no effort. I mean, everything worked out so well. And they were all so nice to me. And so I'd been there a little while, and then they needed they had a station wagon attached to the office, and that was for business between the office and the Navy Yard, and they didn't have any driver, so they needed a driver. So they asked me if I drove the car, and I said yes, I did. And so the first sergeant said, "Take him to the Navy Yard." So we went out. We got the station wagon, and we went down the Navy Yard. Well, in those days, down there, I know there were other places I'd been that were like that. You'd go along the road, and then there'd be a thank you, ma'am. You'd go up over the top because the road went underneath it. And so we went down. There were several of those going on. And as we came to one, there was wide strips on it for people to drive over the thank you, man. So he said, "See if you can hit those strips." And I thought, well, you idiot, where do you think I'm going? And so, of course, I hit the strips. I could drive. So we got down to the Navy Yard. He says, "You sit there. I'll be right out." He came out and handed me my license. He said, "There, the station wagon's yours. You take care of it." So from then on, I had the station wagon every day to do the errands and like that. So that was kind of nice because I had office work, and then I got out quite a bit around the city for things like that, and that was pleasant. I liked Philadelphia. It was a very nice city for service people. They were good to people there, and there was a lot going on, and you could get free tickets to anything. And so it was a nice, and I managed, after I was there, I discovered that I could have a pass on Saturdays to come home. So I would work until noon on Saturday, and then I'd hurry to the station, get on the train, head for New York, and come up home, and I'd get home about 7 o'clock. I'd stay all night, and then I'd stay on Sunday and go back to the late train Sunday night. And I still think of those days when I was traveling like that. Of course, I was in uniform, the same as a lot of other people. Nobody ever bothered me. Nobody ever came up to me. There was never, I went down to Grand Central. I left here at 9:30 at night. Didn't get down to New York till about midnight. Get in Grand Central, take the shuttle over to Penn Station. The trains were full of sailors because it was a lot of the sailors were stationed all down through there. And I learned to move fast and move when they did, and I'd get a seat, because the first time I didn't get one. So when I saw them run, I'd run. And so that worked out fine, and I'd get down in Philadelphia, and there's 2 stations there. There was the one down Broad Street, the main station, then there was the 30th Street station, which was closer to where I lived. So I'd get them out, and I'd get a taxi, and I'd go home, and it would be between 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning. Nobody ever bothered me. I was perfectly safe. I think of it now, boy. I wouldn't anymore do it again. Now, the way things are. But then the girls used to come up with me quite often too on the weekends. We used to have good times up here. I remember one time we went to Canaan. We came up on the weekend, and I think I had 3 others that came up with me that night, so we had our own little parade. So my father took us to Canaan to the movies. And so he parks the car, and we all get out of the car, and we march together down the street, the 4 of us, I'm telling you, we practically had a whole little parade right there in town. Got down to the theater and went to go in, and the man wouldn't take any money. My father went to get the tickets. He said, oh, no, they don't pay. So, but I thought we were treated well. When you had a uniform on, you were treated well. So then in my experience with the station wagon and the office, I went out one day, and down there they had the train overhead. And sometimes you go on the subway, sometimes you go on the L. And it happened that day that the street that I was on, I was going up on the side, and the L was in the middle. And there was a big lumber box wagon there, the biggest thing I'd ever seen. It had hubs that came out on from the wheels, I think about a foot on each side, and they're huge horses. Were great, big, beautiful horses. It was a colored man driving. He was sitting way up high on that big lumber box wagon. And he decided to go under the L about the time that I was coming along there. And I hooked my back fender on one of those hubs. Didn't do anything to him, but it crumpled my fender some. So I went back to the office, and being me, I faced things. I mean, it didn't bother me. I knew it had happened. It was nothing I could help. So I went in and I asked the first sergeant to speak to the colonel to report that I had damaged the car. So he took me in, or tried to go up the chain of command to do anything. And he took me in, and the colonel, he was a very nice man. And I told him what had happened. And I said I caught it on that hub that came out from the wagon. And I said the men at the garage tried to straighten it, but I said it's got to have work done because they couldn't do it all the way. And so he said, you take it up to the main garage and have it fixed. And he didn't make anything of it at all. So I took the car up to the main garage, and there was a holy devil up there that ran that garage. Everybody hated him. And the men in the little garage where I kept the car, they were all scared to death that he was going to give me a bad time. And of course, he was. So I got up to the garage, and I went in, and he spotted that fender. Well, did he rave? He raved, and he hooted, and he yelled, and he screamed, and he was going to turn me in, and I don't know what, besides shoot me, I don't know what else he was going to do. And he got all done, and he said, I'm going to report you to the colonel. And I said, well, he already knows about it, because he sent me up here to get it fixed. It was just like sticking a pin in a balloon. It ruined his day. The men down in the garage hooted and hollered. They laughed so they couldn't get over it. They said that's the first time everybody has ever got the best of that man, because they all hated him so. So I left it up there, and they fixed it all up and got it back, and everything was fine. Nothing was I never got reprimanded for it or anything. And I thought it was some of them said, why didn't you just say, I don't know how it happened? I said, well, I did know how it happened. I did it. And I said, I'm not like that. I want them to know the way it really was. I'm not covering anything up. The other girl, we had another office down below there that was for recruiting, and the girl that drove the wagon from down there, she said, I never would have told him. And I said, well, why not? I said, it was an accident, and it was nothing it was purely an accident. There was nothing I did. And I said, it just happened that way. And I said, so I reported. And whatever they're going to do about it, I didn't care. But they were very reasonable about the whole thing. And the colonel was certainly nice about it. But everybody got an awful kick out of it that I got the best of that man that they didn't like anyway. But my whole experience there in Philadelphia with the people that I worked with, they were all good friends, and I enjoyed it while I was there. And when I came home, with a uniform on, the town kind of liked it too. So So I stayed in until December of 45, and by then everything was over, and most of the girls had gone. My roommate had gotten married, she'd gone, and so I decided I guess I'd had enough of it, so I put in for my discharge, and I got it, and came on home. And then Malcolm came. I got home on a Saturday, and Malcolm arrived in Poughkeepsie on Sunday when I didn't know he was coming. He had come all the way from Peleliu, and he was not out yet, but he'd been sent back to the States, and he was out in January. So crazy kids that we were, we got married on Christmas Day.
Oh, of what year? 1945?
5, yep. Always scurried around and got married in Smithfield Church, and we had a good many. He lived to be into year 2000. His health was not good. He had bad health, and at the end it was kind of bad. But I will say that my experiences, I don't regret anything. And then as a result of all that, after I'd been home for a while, I wasn't working, but I kind of wanted to again. And an opening came in the post office. Well, I had that hands down. I didn't realize it at the time, but being a veteran, all I had to do was go up there and take it because they had to give it to a veteran. The other girl that applied for it was not, so she didn't stand a chance. So I got the job there. It was a part-time job, and then gradually there was a man in the office that left. That pushed me up one, and then later on there was a girl that left. That pushed me up again. So I did 30 years up there, and I loved every bit of it.
Were you allowed to be a married Marine when you were serving? Were there any Marines that were married, female Marines, or did you have to be single?
No, the ones that were, I don't remember any of them that were married with me. Some of them were engaged, but they were not married, and I don't remember any of them that were married. The thing was, when we went in, what they said to you was, join the Marines and free a man to fight. That was the idea. That why I don't approve of what they do now. Of course, I know that's what they want, that's what the women want and all that, but I don't approve of it. But what we went in for was to do the work back here, so they weren't kept here to do that. They could go. We did all the truck driving, the office work, anything that we could do, we did, and then the men could go. Of course, that didn't always go. They hated us, and I well remember the man I replaced him when I first started in, and I'm telling you, he didn't want to go. He didn't like me. But that was what their idea was, to put the girls in. And the office that we worked in, gradually, the men were going out of it, and the girls were coming in. And that's what they didn't like that part. They didn't like him. Broad axle Marines. That's what they always called us.
What was that? Could you say it again? What was it?
Broad axle Marine. That's what they used to call them. BAMs. Yeah. But they didn't. The Marines didn't like the women. When we first started going in, they didn't like the women at all. They didn't want any part of them and anything to do with Marine Corps. I guess we kind of soiled the dirt where they were or something. They didn't want any part of us. But they didn't realize that we were doing the work back home that they would have had to do. They would have had to run the typewriter, and they would have had to drive the car. And this way, of course, a lot of them didn't want to go, but they had to. But they needed them over there.
What kind of sleeping arrangements did you have in Philadelphia? Were you in a...
I had it made. I had it made, I'm telling you. When I got there, I went with the girls first in this rooming house where they all lived. And that was something different than I'd ever lived in before, and it was fun. You kind of slept in any bed that was empty. That was about the way it amounted to. And I know I had some friends come down one weekend from here, and ahead of time I knew that some of the girls were going home, were not going to be there for the weekend, so I had their beds. So they spent the weekend with me and stayed there. But then after I'd been there Oh, probably 6 months or so. The girls began to think they liked it. It wasn't anything great. Strictly a college boy place, I think you'd call it. It wasn't anything fancy. But it was, the woman kept it up as good as she could. But we decided we'd get on, we'd see what else we could find. Two of the girls wanted to take an apartment, so they got an apartment together. And one of the girls went with me. We decided we'd get a room somewhere. And boy, were we lucky. We went around we went to where they were listed, that were places that would take us. And we made the rounds of a lot of them, and a lot of them, we certainly didn't want to live there. So we kept looking, and finally, one day, I landed in this one place. It was a beautiful, great, big, practically a mansion, a big brick house, out a little ways from the city. And when I went there, I found out that the woman was the wife of a Navy surgeon, and he was in the service. And it was a huge house, beautiful house. She was the kind that had Ming china, all the fancy, that kind of stuff. And her house was furnished beautifully. But she decided, when her husband went, that she wanted to take in service girls to stay with her so she wouldn't be all alone. So I got the 4th degree, but I passed it that day. I made out all right. I had to bring the other girl back with me so she could see her. And she let us have this room. Well, we had the run of the house. She let us in. She just took us in, as if we lived there, and it was beautiful. But we had this beautiful room, and twin bed, big room, and our own bath. And so it was really a real nice place. And, it was down there, it was 40 blocks from the main street. That's the way the blocks are. They're all numbered. So we were out at the 40th Street from the main section. But we went by bus or L or whatever, back and forth to work. And it was a nice place to live. It was, the houses were nice there. It was a nice area. She was a lovely woman. She was so good to us. And so I had it made. It was good. They gave us subsistence. We ate all our meals outside. And we had our room there, but other than that, we were on our own to do whatever. But I don't know, there was always something to do, and at nights, all the plays opened down there, and the latest movies were always there, and you go to the movies for a quarter, and the plays, you get a free ticket. So, your entertainment didn't cost too much because everything was available there, and Salvation Army had their donut wagon on the bound by the post office. You could always get a donut. And I don't know, the same way in Grand Central, I can still remember up there on that upper level, if you had to wait in between trains or anything, you go up there. And they give you coffee and donut and a place to sit. And, I thought they treated us pretty good.
Do you remember how much you made for a wage and how much that room cost to rent?
I think, now let me see. The room, I think we paid, I think we gave her $50 a month. It wasn't much. Because I think we each gave her $25. I think that's all we paid. And we didn't get much. The money they paid us was enough, but it wasn't much. Not, you wouldn't, not in these days it wouldn't be, but in those days things didn't cost so much. Your meals and like that were less expensive, and I don't know, it always seems if we had money enough to do what we wanted to. I know I had friends from up here, after I got into Philadelphia, were going to Florida for a vacation for a week, and they wanted me to go. So I asked down there, and they said, sure, they give me a pass, I'd go. So I got my ticket, and of course your ticket on the railroad. I used to come home on the weekends. Round trip ticket, I think, was $2 and something, $2.25 or something like round trip. It didn't cost much then. And everything you did, you either got in for nothing, or it was only a little bit.
Wow, that's amazing.
And we used to go and I remember after I'd come out from work sometimes, and of course a lot of our work was the typing part of it and all that was getting the news from the front. It was sent into us, and then we had to copy it in as many copies as onion skin. We'd get 6 or 7 copies out of it. And you'd pound that typewriter for all you were worth to do it. And then those copies went out to the newspapers and the radio, because that's all there was. And at night, and then that's what they put in for the next day. That's where they got their news. And you didn't have any direct contact with the front like they do now. I mean, there was no reporter with a gun on his shoulder like there is now. They didn't have that. But you had to wait till Ernie Pyle or somebody like that sent back their report, and then you'd copy it and send it out for that night. But that was mainly what we did, was to bring the news from the front over out here to the papers and the radio.
What was your most memorable piece of news that you got first before the nation knew?
Oh, we got all the stuff as fast as as fast as it happened, we'd get it. Mm-hmm. I don't remember especially.
Were you working on D-Day? Were you working 70 years ago today?
I must have been. Yeah. And then I remember when they had when it was VE Day, we all went to New York. That was it, and I know now what. January 1st is in New York, New Year's, because that was that I never saw so many people in my life. It was wall to wall from one side of the street to the other, and of course everybody so happy, and everybody in uniform was there. I guess the officers just dumped and everybody went. And I remember the whole gang of us went up from Philadelphia to New York, and it got in that thing, and it was kind of scary because, my Lord, the people. But everybody was so happy that had got that far and that we were that much over it. But it was just a constant coming in of the news as it came, some of it bad. But then you had to type it out and send it out so the newspapers would have it. And then they had what they used to call a Lux Theater. You could go in and all they showed was news. And for 15 cents, you could go in and see all this news, everything that they had. It wasn't new by the time you saw it, because they'd had it for a while. But
did you take the news in when the bomb was dropped? You spoke of victory over Europe. How about victory over Japan? Were you on duty when the bomb was dropped?
I must have been then. I don't remember it, but I must have been when they. I know I had to be, because that was what we were doing then, so it had to be. Malcolm got closer to that than I did, because he was in Peleliu, and their next jump was to be Japan. And he said that he never saw so many ships in his life as came in that bay there by that ocean, that island where they were. Thousands of them, he said, getting ready for that thing. And he saw the thing when it went. He said he saw that plane when it went. But he said if it hadn't gone, he said he would have been over in Japan too, because he said that was the next jump they were supposed to take.
That's right.
And it was funny with him, he hated the Japanese to the day he died. He hated them. And I used to say, yeah, but it's another generation now. It's not what you fought. And he said, I can't help it. He said, they're still Japanese. Because he was in the bad part. He was in the Marine invasion. The first Marines and they went in together. And they had some bad times. He didn't talk about it. Like they don't talk much about it. But they know what it was when they were there.
Was he a boy that you knew before you entered into the Marine Corps? Was this a young man you knew from home?
Yeah, I knew him from here. I went to school with him before that, and he had gone in the Navy, and he went in the what do I want to say? They wanted to keep him down in Biloxi in Gulfport because he was good with machinery. And they wanted him to stay down there as an instructor to teach the recruits how to use the machinery and the bulldozer and all that kind of stuff. Well, he said that he was the kind, he could go out to the end of a place and it would drop down. So if he had the bulldozer, he'd drop the front of it down with it, and he'd go down. Well, he said, you get those recruits in there, and he said they get in that thing and they freeze. They didn't dare go over the edge. And they wanted him to stay and be an instructor. And he said, no. He said, that's not what I joined the Navy for. So he went over, and they had 30 days on the ship before they hit any land. And he said it was bad going when you knew those submarines were down there underneath you. But they kept going and going farther and farther over till they got in Peleliu, and he liked it over there. But he said they would have gone on into it. It would have been bad if they'd gone on, been fought longer with Japan.
How did you keep in touch with him when he was deployed? Did you write letters back
and
forth? Yeah,
that was the only way you could.
Exactly.
Yeah, just by mail.
How often did you hear from him? Was it?
Well, quite often. When they were able to.
One letter a month, maybe, or
sometimes more, depending on what they did. If it like they were, what they did mainly was to make airfields over there for the planes to get in, and they were all coconut groves over there, so they had to knock all the coconut trees down, and then clear the land, and so that they could make the airfields for the planes to come in.
Do you have any of the letters?
No, I didn't. I didn't keep them.
You didn't?
No.
No. Did you keep a journal while you were serving? Do you have anything written down from when you were in Philadelphia? Did you and the ladies keep a journal?
No, I never did.
No, you never did.
I should have. I did, but I didn't think about it then.
I think we all say
that.
But,
and I could have had quite a story if I'd done it, but it didn't dawn on me that I could.
No. When you came home, did you join any service organizations, or were you busy with...
No, I didn't. The Legion wanted me to join there. And the Legion Auxiliary wanted me to join, and I said I don't have to. I can join the Legion if I want it, but I didn't care about it. I didn't join anything.
And do you want to tell us about the parade this past month for Memorial Day? What honor you had?
That was fun. The main part of that parade was the people that I saw. I enjoyed every bit of it. People I hadn't seen in a long time. And people that I knew that just came up to see me, and I don't know, I was sitting in that truck and the arms were coming in on both sides, to shake hands with me. And, I don't know, it was so nice to see so many people.
And that was just this year, Memorial Day, right?
Yeah.
Memorial Day, nice. And
well, people know me. People know, I've always lived here all my life, so people know me. Some of the newer people don't so much, but... I don't know. I guess I'm kind of a mainstay in town, I guess, because everybody knows me.
That's right.
But it's so nice when I do get out, that so many people seem glad to see me.
Yes.
I always, that's the part I enjoy the most. I always did. That was the part that I liked when I worked. Because when I first started working, I came out of Albany Business College, and I went in the office in Central Hudson to work there. And there I worked with people. People came in there to pay their bills and all that, so I worked with people all the time. And the people that I worked with, I liked, I got along well with, and I enjoyed it. So then I went in service, and I enjoyed all that. And then when I went in the post office, I was right back in it again because I was right there with the people, and my name in the post office was the girl with the smile. Because they said she always smiles at us when we come in there. Some of them, wouldn't let anybody else wait on them, only me. They'd wait because she always smiles at us. They'd say, well, I always said, in those days, it wasn't the post office that it is now. Because now you've got to account for every breath you draw in there. But in those days, you didn't. And if somebody came in, you wanted to visit a little while with them, you could. Nobody cared. Everything got done. And so many times I'd stand there at the counter and visit with somebody, there was a man that used to be in town, and he'd come in the morning. People got tired of him because he talked a lot, you know. But I liked him. And he used to tell me, no, he was a Jewish man. And he used to tell me a lot of things. I remember his daughter died. And he told me all about the service, the way they do things, you know, beforehand at the home and all that. I never heard that before. And I used to visit with him so much. So when I retired, he came in the post office, and then somebody took our picture together. And years later, his son told me, he says, you know, that picture still sits on our piano? He was my retirement in the post office, I'll have to tell you that one. I did enjoy that. It's unheard of, you know, for the public to come behind the holy ground there. And so when it came time to retire, and I said I was going to leave, it was November, I was going to go. And they said, oh, no, wait till Christmas. I said, oh, no, I've worked every Christmas. I'm not working this one. So they said, what do you want us to do? Do you want a dinner, or do you want to go? What do you want to do? And I said to the postmaster, we had a good postmaster then, and I said, the thing I want to do I can't have. And he said, what would you like? I said, I want those doors to be open and everybody come in. And he said, we'll do it. I said, you can't, not here. He said, well, I'm going to do it. So they did. The doors were open that day, and people came in all day long. And I had my desk right by the door when they came in there. And more people came in to visit, and I had the time of my life. And they brought all kinds of food, and it was so much fun. And I remember it was the best going away that I could have had. Wow. I loved every bit of it.
Sounds amazing.
But it was so many that came, you know, that came on, and they were surprised when they saw the doors open and they could come in, you know.
That sounds wonderful. Other than your extra points for getting your postal job, did you use a GI Bill, or did your service in the Marine Corps help you?
Oh yeah, if you were a veteran, you got 10 extra points on your test. Mm-hmm. You know, you take civil service test. Well, that didn't mean anything. Anybody could pass that, but you automatically get 10 extra points because you're a veteran. Well, with 10 extra points, nobody can beat you. Right. But you got it.
And did you use the GI Bill? Did you go to college? I know you went to college beforehand.
I graduated from high school here, mm-hmm. and then I went to Albany Business College, mm-hmm. and then when I came out, they were supposed to give you a job when you got through well, there was no job to give you. They tried to get me in the telephone company up in Albany, and they sent me over there, but they didn't have anything. So I came home, and I was home for quite a little while. I did a little private stuff on the side like that. I know I typed a book for a man, and but little things like that. And then that was when the what I call them the alphabets opened up, and the WPA and all that kind of stuff opened up, and it was in the courthouse in Poughkeepsie. And that was when Roosevelt started all that business with giving people work because they needed it. And that was when they put the boys out in these camps all around. They had 2 or 3 around here. And there was some of the alphabets opened up in the Poughkeepsie, I can't tell you. But anyway, so I applied for it. And with my background, I had no trouble. I got it. So I went back and forth to Poughkeepsie with another girl 6 times a week. We went 5.5 days we had to work. We got $16 a week. Can you imagine? And bought the gas for that. Well, gas was not any item in those days because you could buy 12 gallons for $1. And, you know, that was no big deal. But we got $16 a week. So I worked there for, I think I went in May, and I think it was then the next January that this opening came here in the Central Hudson office. The girl that was here came out of Poughkeepsie, and she wanted to go back. And they needed somebody here. Well, when they get somebody out of Albany Business College wanting the job, they didn't have any trouble because I moved right in. And so I was in there for 8 years until I went in the service. So all in all, I've enjoyed all the work that I've done. I've always enjoyed my jobs because they were with people.
Right.
And that's what I liked so much. When I was a kid, I thought I wanted to be a teacher, but I was glad I didn't. I was glad I did what I did. I liked it better.
So do you have any connection with the Marine Corps League or AMVETS now that you're...
Well, through him. So then he comes here and he gives me all this stuff, and my Lord, all he does is give me stuff. I wouldn't even known anything about it before that.
Right. So Nick has connected you to the veteran community. And,
Oh, gosh, yes.
Yes.
I don't dare say I want anything till I tell him first. He said, you don't do anything, you tell me first. So he gets, what's he get? He gets me a wheelchair. He gets me, oh, Lord, you did the thing in my bathtub. He got me the thing for my toilet. The things that I was going to get, and when I mentioned them, he comes with them.
One Marine helping another.
You bet.
Takes good care of you.
There aren't many like him, and I'm telling you, they don't have that kind. There used to be a man here connected with the Legion that did some of that sort of thing. They used to work with Castle Point like that. Mm-hmm. But then after he died, nobody else ever took it up again. I don't think there's anybody around here does anything like that. And the stuff that's available, you don't know about because there's nobody that does it anymore. But with him, my Lord.
How long did you stay connected to your fellow women Marines? Did you send Christmas cards? Have you ever had a reunion?
No, we never did. They were scattered pretty well around the country. Mm-hmm. And I can't say, my roommate I did see again afterward. Mm-hmm. But she lived in Staten Island. We went down there to see her. And but the other ones were mostly from the West. And I know there was one from Colorado, and then one that was from Boston, and she married a man from Peru, and she went down there. And so, and then there was another one that stayed in Pennsylvania. So I didn't keep up with them after. They mostly all got married, and I didn't keep up with them afterward. I did keep up with my roommate for quite a while. But then the last time she called me, couple of years ago, she lived up near Albany, and she called me, but I don't think her health was good. She didn't sound good, and the last time I ever heard from her.
I see. Is there anything else that you would like to have included in this footage? Can you talk a little bit more about being a young girl during that time, or being a young bride? Did you ever have anybody, once you were home, treat you badly because you were a female Marine? I know you talk about how wonderful people were respectful.
Nobody's ever treated me bad.
Nobody ever. Who could treat that smiling girl badly?
I was a spoiled brat, I'm sure, because my father and mother were wonderful to me.
Oh.
And we had a nice home here. I was always very important. I was always included. When I can remember, even when I was little, I wasn't treated like a little kid. I was included in the family. And when they did things or planned things, I was included. And I was brought up that way. They kind of respected me somehow. You know, I wasn't treated like, no, you can't do or you can't say or anything like that. I was included. And my opinion, they would ask my opinion of things like that. I could always remember. But they were wonderful parents.
Amazing. And can you tell us about your 100th birthday party that occurred a few years back? How about if we hear about your...
I gave my husband a surprise birthday party on his 80th birthday. Mm-hmm. He never had one. Oh. And there was a friend of mine that had a place up a few miles north of here, and up by Hillsdale. And so I planned that. She helped me to plan it so he wouldn't get wind of it. And I got all his family together, and we went there for dinner. And we went in, and I can still see him. He looked at me, and I looked all around at all these people that were all his relatives. And he looked around and he turned around and he said, "Did you know they were going to be here?" I laughed my head off. I said, "How do you suppose they got here if I didn't tell them?" But he enjoyed it. That was the first party he'd ever had, and he really thoroughly enjoyed that.
Wow. And is that how you felt at your 100th? I hear that your 100th
Oh, my 100th, well, that was something else. My 100th birthday was wonderful.
And where was it?
Oh, and I thought we had the open house first. This is the way they planned it. My nephew, it's Malcolm's nephew, planned it, and they had the open house at the Legion first. I don't know where all those people came from. I can't imagine that many coming out because it was my open house. But my Lord, they kept coming and coming and coming. I can't imagine how many were there. They said that, well, somebody said they thought at least 200. But there were an awful, and people that I hadn't seen. There was one young man came up to me and he said, "You probably don't remember me." I did. I knew him. And he thought because I hadn't seen him in a long time, I wouldn't remember him. And my nephew's brother came out from California, and that surprised me because I was so surprised to see them. I knew they had to fly out. And then another cousin that lived up above Utica, they drove down for the day, and a lot of them came from but the town people, my Lord, the town people that I didn't think I would mean that much to. But they came, and they kept coming, and I was sitting here coming on both sides. You know, they kept coming and coming and coming. I got dizzy with all of them coming because there were so many, and so many that I never would have dreamed would have taken the time to come. You know, some of them were children of people that I knew, and they say, "Well, I'm so-and-so's daughter," or I couldn't get over it to think they would do that. Yeah. And that was wonderful. Oh, I did enjoy that so much. And then afterward, then they had the big dinner up at the pond, and that was another big one. They kept coming on both sides for that one too, but oh, there were so many that came. That I was surprised at how many would, how they would want to do it. At the pond, they had to pay their own way. Everybody bought their own ticket. My Lord, there were an awful lot of tickets bought. Made me feel good.
I bet. Well, with a public job, you were the face of town for 30 years.
Yeah.
You interacted with many, many generations of townspeople.
And now it's at the point where when they want to know something, they come over.
Yes.
Because if you don't tell us, we'll never know. I said, well, I realize that. And they'll bring pictures over. Do you know this one? Do you know that one? Well, a lot of times I do.
Oh, that's wonderful. We kind of glanced right over your wedding day on Christmas. I realized that you...
Well, that was nice. It was just a small wedding. Uh-huh. We were married over in the Smithfield Church. That was Malcolm's church, Presbyterian. Mine was here. And we just had a small wedding in the afternoon. And it was funny. After the wedding, we were going to Beekman Arms in Rhinebeck for a small reception. Happened to be, it was an ice storm that day. So we get over to Beekman Arms, and it was not a good arrangement. I should have realized it beforehand, because being on the holiday, people were not working, and the things had all gone by. It wasn't the best arrangement, but it worked. And so we went over to Rhinebeck, and Malcolm and I were going to take the train down from Rhinecliff to New York just for a few days. There wasn't much you could do right at that point. And we got over there, and we had the dinner, and then everybody started home. It was mostly his family, his people. And they took us down to the station, and we got the train down. We had to stand up all the way to New York. It was a packed train. And so when later I talked to my mother on the phone, and I said how I complained about having to stand up all the way in New York, she said, you should see what we had to do. She said, going home, she said that was an ice storm. And I guess there was only one car that made it. She said the rest of us wound up in Rhinebeck, in any place we could stay. She and my father, I think she said they stayed in some room in the Beekman Arms that didn't have any heat in it. And one of the other couples, they knew somebody in Rhinebeck. They went there. I guess they put up any place they could put them for that night because there wasn't much choice. But she said there was a terrible ice storm, and she said coming home, the one car got through, and another one, I think it was part of the wedding party was behind him, and they skidded. And so that ended. Everything behind them couldn't get any further. So they all had to go back to Rhinebeck. She said, what a mess that was. So they had quite a time. We got down there, but oh boy, it was a packed, there wasn't an inch anywhere. It was a packed train.
Wow.
But that's the way everything was at those times. When service people they loaded everything and there wasn't breathing room anywhere.
Right.
So we were down there for the rest of for a week. We stayed down there and went to shows and things, and then we came home. And Mom they had a party here for us when we got home.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had another party that kind of surprised me. There was a farm over toward Pine Plains way that I didn't know that man. Malcolm did, not well, but he knew him. And I didn't know him at all. And my Lord, he had a lovely, great big party for us. And had all the people in that neighborhood come, and all. I was quite surprised that I'd never known the man before, but he wanted to have a big party for us, so he did. So that was nice.
That's lovely. Well, who wouldn't want to have a party for Mrs. Smiley and her new husband? So. Oh, well, today's been wonderful. Thank you so much. This has been a great honor for me to interview you for the Library of Congress's
I can't imagine it going there.
History Project. Yes, America's going to be able to watch this in perpetuity. All the women veterans, thank you so much for paving the way for the rest of us. This is amazing.
It's been a good life. I've enjoyed it. It's been a good life. The people have been good to me, and the people I've been connected with have been wonderful. And
great.
My husband was a good man. I had a good life with him, and 56 years, I guess it was, we had, and enjoyed them all.
Wonderful. That's awesome.
I've been lucky, and his health was bad, but mine was not. So I've been able to do quite well.
Yes, you certainly have.
Yeah, it's still there, still doing it.
Still there. The old girl still got it. Oh,
you wonder how long it could go on and on, but I don't know. They say you don't go till your time comes, so I guess that's true.
That's right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for today and for your service to America. Thank you. So let's see.